I have never been a big believer in ghosts or the supernatural, but what happened to me a few years ago changed that. It was the day of my uncle's funeral. I had always been close to him, and his passing hit me really hard. The service was held in a small old funeral home. It was one of those places that felt a little too quiet, a little too cold. After the service, I lingered for a bit, saying goodbye to family and helping clean up. By the time I left, it was dark outside, and the parking lot was almost empty except for a few cars. The air was heavy with fog, making things feel even more eerie. I got into my car, exhausted and emotionally drained. As I sat in the driver's seat, I glanced at the funeral home one last time. That's when I saw her. A woman standing outside the entrance. She was dressed in what looked like a long black dress. Her face was turned away from me. At first, I thought she might be a mourner who had stayed behind, but something about her presence didn't feel right. There was a strange stillness about her, like she didn't belong there. I dismissed it as my mind playing tricks on me. I turned the key in the ignition and started to back out. As I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I glanced in the rearview mirror, and my heart nearly stopped. The woman was standing in the middle of the road, right behind my car. I slammed on the brakes, heart racing, but when I looked again, she was gone. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I was just seeing things after such a long day. I took a deep breath and continued driving. The road back home was dark and winding, with trees casting long shadows on the pavement. I just couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that had settled in my stomach. A few minutes later, as I made a turn, I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. I glanced at the rearview mirror again, and there she was, sitting in the back seat of my car. She didn't move. She didn't make a sound. She just sat there, her head slightly tilted as if she was staring out the window. I still couldn't see her face. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly. I wanted to pull over to get out, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I was paralyzed. For what felt like an eternity, I drove in silence, too scared to look back again. When I finally gathered the courage to glance in the mirror, she was gone. The seat was empty, as if she had never been there at all. I sped the rest of the way home, heart pounding. When I pulled into the driveway, I jumped out of the car and bolted into the house, locking the door behind me. That night, I barely slept. To this day, I can't explain what happened. I don't know if she was real or if it was just my exhausted mind after such an emotional day. But I haven't gone near that funeral home again. And every time I get into my car at night, I can't help but check the back seat, just to make sure I'm alone.